Testing, testing, 1, 2, 3, testing, 1, 2, 3, testing, 1, 2, 1, 2. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hello. Hey there. Hi there. Ho there. This is Ralph Hayes Jr., RHJunior, Reality Check, coming to you live over the internet through a series of tubes, a system of boob tubes known as YouTube, bringing you another broadcast of a little something I like to call spleen squeezins. Can you feel the excitement? I know I'm all of Twitter. I don't really use Twitter, actually. I very rarely use it. I very rarely read it. It's like reading a collection of really infuriating bumper stickers and being given the illusion of being able to respond to them. Did you ever see a car out there? Some guy's got like a bumper sticker that says something really stupid on it, or really offensive, really obnoxious, or really just wrong. Just infuriating. And you're sitting there watching this car, and you're thinking, "I'd love to key your vehicle," or wait until you're driving by and then clothesline you. That's all Twitter is. No, it's everybody trying to sum up their worldview into a single sentence. The original intent. The original intent was to give us a means of communication with one another. Way quick. Pick up some milk and eggs at the store, kind of things. What do we use it for? Cheesing each other off, and away you go. But okay, let's see here. I'm going to look up some recently bookmarked. Let's see. Oh, I found a little thing here called DoorDash food delivery, where you pay them a fee and they'll pick up fast food. Apparently, they do serve this area. At least, going through the preliminary pages, they apparently do serve Marietta. But, just how hungry for Chinese food do you have to be that you're willing not only to pay the high prices of food being delivered to you, but you're willing to pay extra on top of it just to get it to your front door? What does this tell you? Why do so few restaurants have delivery in this area? I swear, I don't understand it. Let's see. Background noises, ambient sounds. A kanji dictionary. I'm looking for a link here. This. Yeah, I don't know. Well, yeah. Let's see here. Oh, feel burpy. I feel spooty. Kind of burpy. Maybe farty would be more appropriate. Blogs. Oh, let's see. Left it under here somewhere. Tabletop audio. Here we go. Chunk in my tooth. The Royal Court background. Let's see what that sounds like. Sounds boring. That's what it sounds like. Dwingle, 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 dwingle. Play the virginal and bore the crap out of people. Yeah. It's very difficult to find background ambiance. That's what he's doing. This is why this show is complete amateurish crap, as opposed to almost anything else on the internet at the moment. Now, let's see here. Hey, Anthro Warrior! Anthro Warrior, yes! I have a bunch of fix. Fix. That sounds so wrong if you say it too fast. I'm gonna read it. Oh, mind the spoilers, huh? Well, you've tempted fate, you son of a gun. You've utterly, you've shafted yourself. You've given me a malevolent motivation. I'm an evil stinker. I'm mean, I'm nasty, I'm surly, and I'm old. I'm an old fart, and I smell funny. So, okay, I'm gonna have to pull up to the page to get track of archive of our own. Okay, I have forum. That's where I posted both Ladybird and the Warcrafter there because they are worm crossovers. But all of them are on Archive of Our Own. But I love Sufficient Velocity. The reason they have their name. Originally, they started out as a separate portion of something called Space Battles, and and the usual debates they used to have was how many Death Stars versus how many Borg cubes, or how many Enterprises versus how many Millennium Falcons, that kind of thing. Which side would win? How many Death Stars would you need to defeat V'ger, or and so on and so forth. And one guy, he's a physicist, he came up with this answer. It's very simple. He said, how many X-wing fighters does it take to destroy a Death Star? One at sufficient velocity, and that became the tagline. And you sit there and you think about it. Yeah, he's right. If we were ever, as a species, to get out into space, a lot of the things we associate with sci-fi about space battle, out the window. Most of it would come down to whoever gets there fastest with the mostest. And most battles, quote unquote, would be over in nanoseconds. Not really great cinematics, though. Anyway, let's see here. I've got several. I have a buttload of news stories. I have so many news stories on Archive of Our Own. I just basically, last couple of weeks, just call it a sign I needed to do some self-maintenance kind of week, because I was just going nowhere with it. Just ground up. I was mentally exhausted, emotionally exhausted, physically exhausted. And I don't do anything. Just being my physical condition, just horrified. Just. But anyway, it's over the week I ended up. Now I have this one thing where on Archive of Our Own called Oddments, ODDMENTS. It's where I'm supposed to just dump a couple of chapters of ideas that have been bugging me, and that I'll probably never get this. I'll probably never write all this, and here, let me put this chapter up here in Oddments. Figments, general drabble, random ideas that aren't going to go anywhere, and a disturbing number of them are going places now, whether I want them to or not. I ended up with something like 5 news stories that I caved like wet toast, okay? And I ended up making them their own stories. Let's see here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, 5. 5 new stories on Archive of Our Own. This ambiance is very quiet. I'm not sure what to make of it. Phew. Bug up the nose. Ugh. Got aphids all over the place here. Gnats. Hate them. This is part of the reason I've taken to sleeping days and getting up nights. Part to avoid the heat and part to avoid the bugs. Little buzzy a-holes. Anyway, let's see here. I'll go from top to bottom. Okay. The first one I did is that it's actually a crossover. It's actually a post crossover with Warcrafter. If you've been following Warcrafter, this is supposed to be after. This is supposed to be set after the end of Warcrafter, when I finally finish that story and button it up. Basically, the idea is that the Lost Workshop, where Bayleaf and all his friends are, their next contract is basically they become the Lost Workshop becomes that little shop that wasn't there yesterday. The plot device. The protagonist stumbles across this little store that wasn't there before. Of course, considering them, it's more of a miniature shopping mall. But now they go popping around. It's now a story vehicle of sorts. But just a moment, I got a tangle here in my headphone cords. Anyway, there we go. And anyway, the crossover is Deku the Warcrafted. It's a crossover with Boku no Hero Academia, My Hero Academia, where Izuku stumbles across the Lost Workshop, the little shop that wasn't there yesterday, and he ends up becoming a paladin. It's a very straightforward. It's only got one chapter up, so it's not got a lot of meat on it yet, but there are going to be other chapters in Deku the Warcrafted where he gives out business cards. The little shop that wasn't there yesterday is going to be hanging around for a while. And Izuku is only the first of the students and protagonists of My Hero Academia that they help out. And there are also going to be other stories where they help out other iterations of Izuku. Izuku when he's just a little boy, anyway. But right now, the first thing they've done, basically, I love the fact that who else would I have working the register at a store like this but Lisa, Tattletale from Worm. She takes one look, because she can size people up just by looking at them and know if they're worthy of any of the thousands of magical or supernatural, gadgets they've got floating around in their store, and whether they deserve to get some serious, instant karma or not. So she's working the register, and Izuku walks in. The first thing she does is she rings up the boss on the intercom and says, we'd better give that that poor cinnamon bun everything he needs, or I swear I'm going to shave you bald in the middle of the night. And I personally like that. I just, can you imagine? She looks right at him and boom, she instantly knows that Izuku is a cinnamon roll. For those who don't know what the term cinnamon roll means, it's an internet slang term meaning somebody who's too sweet and good for this world. And yes, Izuku is seriously a serious cinnamon bun. Anyway, in this storyline, he ends up becoming a paladin, which basically is suits. It's pretty straightforward. It basically is the one Warcrafter role that suits his character in the show best. Somebody who fights for justice, protects the innocent. Yeah, paladin. I've only got one chapter up. I've got about half a chapter of that one that I'm still working on. Chapter 2 is still a work in progress. Now, yeah, I'm looking for the page. There we go. I have no idea what you're talking about, the Andalites. Okay. And Ben, I have no idea what your Father's Day complaint is about. Degenerates and Animorphs. Okay, you complete left field here. Hey, Anthrazo Warrior, yes, I've told you what cinnamon bun means before. I'm telling it for anybody who happens to, in a state of extreme confusion or drunkenness, actually stumbles across this video and watches it for more than 2 seconds. Okay, let's get something more sparkly going here. Oh, Pride Month. Oh, give me a break. Oh, cinnamon buns. Yeah, I get what you're saying now. I get the joke. Because Andalites from the Animorphs, when they turn into humans, they go bonkers for cinnamon buns. Bonkers for cinnamon buns. No, June is not Pride Month. I'm sorry. You do not get to just walk up and say, "This month is mine." Back off, Anyway, we were asking about the new stories I've started. The new stories I've started on Archive of Our Own. God help me, I'm going to die. My muse is trying to kill me. I would really like some more comic strips. I'd really like some excitement and enthusiasm and motivation for doing the comic strips, which I really am supposed to be doing more of. We're going to do an anime crossover with My Little Pony. Yes, ma'am. Okay. Actually, I did do that. The next one I wanted to mention was okay. Well, let's go with this. Let's go with these in order. The second one I did is called BNHA: The Thunder Rolls. It's a crossover with My Hero Academia and a crossover with Shazam. Things go very different for Izuku because in the first episode, when he was supposed to when he was attacked by the slime monster, by the sludge villain. This time around, he wasn't the only one in the underpass. There was an old, white-haired a little old white-haired gentleman that was in the tunnel with him, and the slime monster attacked the little old man first, and Izuku came to his rescue. Of course, they ended up having to both be rescued by All Might a few seconds after that. Well, All Might goes jumping off, but Izuku sticks around. Instead of latching on to All Might's leg, as in the story, the original, Izuku hangs around because this little old man is still distraught over what happened. When he has to get the guy to a hospital, have him checked over and all that. He wants to take care of the little old man, get him home, make sure he's safe. And it turns out the little old man is Billy Batson. It seems Billy Batson has been bopping, he's been a hero for about 300 or 400 years, been bopping around the multiverse all that time, and he's finally decided to retire as Captain Marvel. And he ends up, the instant that All Might goes jumping off, this little old man with a long white beard down his chest looks up and says, "Oh, good. I thought he was going to poach you for a minute." And he drags Izuku off to the Rock of Eternity, or a subdivision thereof, and gives him the power of Shazam. And well, you can guess how it goes from there. Again, it's only got one chapter up. I just like it. It fits him. It fits. I've not been able to watch the movie yet, but just the trailers I've seen and the clips, I'm like, oh, I want to see this so bad. This has got to be the most brilliant portrayal of a child given a superhero power I've ever seen, and at the same time, it's still cheerful and optimistic. A rare thing to say these days. And it's got a brilliant sense of humor, and so I'm like, yeah, I could see Izuku as Captain Marvel. Oh well, he goes by the Marvel in this story because lawyers. That's what Billy Batson tells me. They took my name and gave it to this obnoxious woman who thought everybody should kiss her butt because she was the first female superhero. Oh man, the She-Hulk and Wonder Woman laughed their asses off at that. Anyway, yeah. And of course, after that, I was just out of my mind here. I'm just going and going and going and going and couldn't stop. Wait a minute, that can't be right. Oh yeah, El Arira. The third one, is titled El Arira, which is a name from Watership Down. And this one around, Izuku's on his way to school. He sees a two-bit punk trying to rob this little old lady with her pushcart. She's some little old lady who sells jewelry and things on the street, and this two-bit punk with a really crappy quirk tries to rob her. And Izuku steps in and by sheer luck trips the guy and and manages to save the day. In gratitude, she offers him she pulls out a box of her handmade jewelry and offers him any one of these talismans. And and they're all little simple silver discs on a leather thong with an image engraved in them. One has a bat. One has a spider. One, she tells him, is a Wolverine. Are you seeing where I'm going with this? But he decides that I'm going to get this, it's, jewelry really isn't really me, but maybe Mom would like this one. And he picks the one with the rabbit on it. And it gives him, and he doesn't realize it at first. It takes him a couple of days. It takes him about a day or so for the effects to kick in. But it stings his palm, and it gives him a quirk. He gets sick. He goes along the day. His everything's going strange. He gets sick. He passes out. He wakes up in the hospital. He's been turned into an anthropomorphic rabbit. If you've ever seen, let me see if I got the name right. King Kaiser. King Kaiser from Summer Wars. Look it up. Here, let me show you. Well, actually, let me just show you an image here. It's there you go. King Kaiser from Summer Wars. He looks sort of like that, except with green hair on the top of his head. And it turns out that in addition to being stronger, faster, more agile, able to leap really, really high, and run really, really fast, and he has a punch like a southbound freight train, he also has a danger sense. And in his description, the danger sense, it's not like Peter Parker where, danger sense tingling, something must be near, His is always on, and he can sense danger all around him at all times. And it gives him the feeling, in his own words, of being surrounded by 1,000 enemies all the time, fading and waxing and waning, fading, growing closer, growing more distant, but he's always aware of it. And yes, he applies. He doesn't think at first that he can do anything with this ability. But then he starts trying it on for size and starts realizing it has some serious potential. The running gag of it is that throughout the story, Kachan keeps startling him, and setting off his danger sense, and he keeps punching Kachan out. He's like, Deku! Ah! Punch! Thud. And for a twist, the most original thing, okay, spoilers, is I changed up how he saves the day during the admissions practical. Shoot, bugs, get away, shoe bugs. I'm personally proud of that because everybody who writes a My Hero Academia story invariably has Izuku defeat the Zero Pointer, even when he's supposed to be totally powerless. I'm reading a story right now. I'm following a story now. It's literally, that's the name of it, Powerless, where Izuku has been trained by Batman. And he's basically, the new Robin, kind of, sort of. And he still beats the Zero Pointer. I'm like, let's change that up just a little bit. Just a little bit. Well, the other let's see here. Okay, you want them all? I'm going to read them all. You get me started on this topic, you're stuck. Okay. And then there's a My Little Hero Academia, a My Hero Academia crossover with My Little Pony. It's done in the same vein as Lady Bird. The princesses are watching, they're following along as Deku struggles through his life, and they were planning on intervening, but then All Might gives him One for All. But then they're watching the practical the practical exam, and they see him shatter his arms and legs. And from where they are, they think he is dying. In fact, in this, they're basically right, because he's going into shock. Nobody else can see it, but his heart is stopping. And so they save him in the only way they can. They try to turn him into an alicorn. Because a human couldn't survive what had just happened to him. A pony wouldn't survive either, but an alicorn could. And it doesn't quite go right. Because when the transformation is done, what's lying there is a cute little mint green earth pony. It turns out what happened is that the alicorn spell and One for All have one thing in common. They're amalgamations. One for All is basically an amalgamation of all the quirks that have been of the people that it's been handed down through the past 8 holders. As well as gaining more power from each bearer, it also gains something of their actual quirks. It's a fusion, basically. And the alicorn spell, basically, an alicorn is a fusion of all the races, all the pony races of Equestria. And yes, that includes the bat ponies and the crystal ponies and the sea ponies. And any others they decide to throw at us out of nowhere in the last season of the show. Well, the alicorn spell and One for All tried to fuse, and they succeeded. But as it stands, whenever this is a spoiler. It hasn't been shown in the story. I've only got like 2 chapters. Whenever Izuku pushes One for All up to 100%, it triggers a metamorphosis, and he changes into whatever pony race would be best. He changes from one pony race to another, and it generally tends to pick the form that is best suited for whatever crisis he's in the middle of enough that made him panic that much. If he's falling off a cliff, he'll turn into a Pegasus. If he falls into a pool full of sharks, he'll turn into a sea pony. If he, so on and so forth. He hasn't learned to control it yet, but at least his limbs aren't shattering every time he uses All for One, or One for All, rather. Are any of these sounding interesting to you? Now, the final one is called Coyote. This is a character I was planning on, this is a character, an OC character I was going to be using in a crossover with DC. The Justice League, that sort of thing. But I got on this My Hero Academia kick and used him here. What changes is that shortly after Izuku finds out, when Izuku was about 4 or 5, he found out that, he was quirkless. The doctors told him, you have no quirk. And shortly after that, he meets a new friend. The friend is an American boy who has moved to Japan named Riley. Riley Coyote. If you get that joke, give yourself a gold star. Because Riley Coyote, he's an anthropomorphic coyote. He's small, he's cute, he's furry. He has a coyote head, a coyote tail, and coyote everything else. But anyway, he becomes Izuku's best friend, his blood brother even. And the thing of it is Riley is an absolutely demented prankster. And even, he and Riley become, Riley and Izuku become friends because despite his appearance, he doesn't have a quirk yet. Being, in the world of My Hero Academia, you can have all sorts of freakish appearance, but not actually have a quirk. You can be a mutant, but still not have an actual quirk power. Go figure. Well, neither of them have their quirk, and even before he gains his power, Riley takes extreme delight in making Kachan's life absolute hell. As Kachan makes the mistake of trying to bully Izuku right in front of him. Well, Riley gains his quirk, and basically, he calls it Oobleck. Or alternatively, living cartoon. He can create a cartoonish duplicate of just about anything. The stuff it's made of, he generates this stuff he calls Oobleck. He can make it turn solid, liquid, gaseous, make it look like anything, change its shape to just about anything. He can generate about a ton of the stuff at any given time. And he and Izuku, basically have gone through everything together. They even end up facing the slime monster together. They end up rescuing Kachan from it together. And they end up entering UA Academy together. Even after, All Might gives One for All to Izuku. There's 4 chapters. That one is the one that I have the most chapters of right now. It's 4 chapters long. It's gotten pretty good. It's the one I think that's gotten the best reception. Don't ask me why. And what's going to be coming out in the next chapter is that we're going to learn that Riley has a rather dangerous weakness. Call it a mental block, if you like. He can't seriously or sincerely use his abilities to cause serious injury or to harm another person. Sure, he can, cause them serious pain or discomfort, or shock them, or embarrass them, or confuse them, or befuddle them. You got to realize this. If he was, he's basically a weak man's Green Lantern. He can make just about anything he wants. But he has certain limits. He can make flame. He could make a ball of fire, for instance, that would almost be hot enough to burn. It can singe. But it isn't really flame. He can make ice out of oobleck that is cold enough to chill, but not to actually freeze. He can't make it any colder than like freezing. Exactly 0 degrees, and he can't make it any colder than that. So he can imitate other people's abilities, but he can't actually duplicate them. But the real catch is that he has a psychological block that if he tries to use his powers to genuinely, sincerely hurt, or God forbid kill someone, his powers don't work right. Steel spikes turn to rubber. A giant wooden mallet turns as soft as an inflatable toy. It's basically his subconscious pulling his punches, which is generally a good thing. For instance, on a playground, but it's not such a great thing when you're facing down with a murderous monster that is willing to turn every human being in its path into a bloody smear. And if he ever runs into a villain that figures out that he is stuck on non-lethal, he's going to be in desperate trouble. It's a weakness both he and Izuku are aware of, and that they've been trying to find some way to break him out of before it costs him. It's going to be coming out when they have the USJ arc. It's one thing to it's one thing to use non-lethal methods by choice. It's another to not be able to use them at all. One's a moral strength, the other's a physical weakness. If you can't control it, it can be exploited. Pooey. Not to get too all serious and dramatic on you with a ridiculous little fan fiction I'm writing, but what the heck. Anyway, that's all the new stuff I've gotten in the fan fiction department. Now that I've gone from an interesting vignette to boring you, what would you like to talk about now? All right, Ben, what would you like to talk about? You were talking earlier about, oh, yeah, oh, okay, we're going to go for the grimdark serious moral social issue moment, are we? Okay, great. Father's Day is June 16th, and June has been declared Gay Pride Month, Pride Month. You know, the only people who aren't allowed to be proud are white heterosexuals. You notice that? Put up a notice that you're proclaiming straight pride. They'll accuse you of being a hate monger. Isn't that interesting? Yeah, I'm not the first to notice that. Whoop-de-doodle. Now, what's to talk about? Okay, I know you can hear me. Okay, there are 5 people in channel. One of them's me. That leaves 4 people. We got Benchikar, Anthrazil Warrior, and who else? Let's see. Can this stupid thing tell me? Oh, well, you got to keep in mind that he's still got a lot of options. Riley. He can subdue, confuse, intimidate, entrap, overwhelm, overpower. It's just that if he tries to commit harm, serious injury, if he tries to break an arm, he flinches back from it. Subconsciously. He's like somebody who can't bring themselves to really seriously punch somebody in the teeth, He can put a hurt on somebody, but he can't really go for the, he can't go for the kill. You remember in Batman, The Dark Knight, Batman's trying to intimidate this one crime boss, dangles him off a ledge, and the guy laughs in his face. He says, "Oh, well, first off, we're not high enough. You got to talk to a professional. You got to be a few floors higher for this to be fatal." And he drops him off the ledge. Guy, he breaks his leg falling, and Batman comes down, and the guy's still laughing in his face. And he said, "Don't you get it? We figured out your weakness. We figured you out. You won't kill." Once everybody out there figures that out, you're done for. Anyway, let's move on. What subject? Come on, talk to me. Okay, we got 4 people here. Give me some mojo. Talk to me, people. Tell me you love me. What would you like to talk about? I'm gonna try and open up. I'm going to try and draw something. Draw the pictures for the comic book page. Because I'm supposed to be a comic strip artist. Kickstarter documents. Where is it? That's pardon. Woo. and a mighty wind arose in the land. Oh, goodness, there it goes again. Some days I just, Ugh, blech. Crumbs all over his. Crumbs all over my drawing pad thing. Oh, crusties. Ugh. There we go. Keyboard crud. Yay! Except it's everywhere. It's not just on the keyboard anymore. Keyboard crud. It's not just for the keyboard anymore. Yum yum. Turn your keyboard upside down, shake it, free lunch. And today we're down to 4. We lost somebody. We lost somebody. Where'd you put him? I don't know. We sent him down somewhere. He was here a minute ago. I checked everywhere. Bathroom, between the sofa cushions. We lost one of our audience members. Ding 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 ding. Ding 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 ding. Ding 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 ding. I'm going to feel so much better if I actually do a comic strip. Come on. Come on. You can do the comic strip. Do the comic strip. You will feel so smart. You will feel so much better. You will feel so much more accomplished if you do a comic strip. Yes, there we go. 6. Hands are so shaky. Try that. Wish I knew why. I feel good. La 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 la. Like I know that I would. La 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 la. I feel good. La 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 la. Like I know that I should. So good, so good, so good since I met you. Hey, 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 hey. Mm. Yeah. Patreon is in the process of processing all the donations and pledges for this month. Now, my objective is this. My objective is this. To, June is a wash. June was a complete wash. It was a complete waste of complete, yeah, you know, didn't do squat. Just, bleh, you know, I spit on the month of June. Bleh. But my objective for this next month is to increase my output. Get get to the point where I'm getting a comic strip out a day, at least one comic strip a day. Increase my readership. Increase my readership. I'd also like, if I could, to increase. I'd like to persuade my donors. I have gotten 97, 98 donors. And I collect monthly about $400 in pledges, which means that everybody's donating about an average of $5, which is grand. But if I could, if I could reach a point where people are, glad enough, oh, he's doing so wonderful, he's making so many comic strips, let's up his donation. If I could get all those people to go from $5 to $10, literally, that would put me in the black. That would give me enough money to pay, cover the rent, the lot rent, and the trash, and the electric, and the internet, and make my payments on my back taxes, and make my payments on my back rent, and also to start paying for repairs, and it would just basically put me in the black. I would love to be able to do that, or I would love to be able to get enough people, or I'd like to double the number of people in my Patreon. One or the other would be nice. Let's see if I can manage that. Better yet, let's see if I can manage to increase my output again. I really shouldn't be. I've been so alone these past few days. I really have. It's not a good thing because I'm sitting here. I'm flipping through. Like the image website, Imgur. How do you pronounce it? Imgur or Imgur? I don't know. IMGUR. And what do I find? I find this collection of quotes by artists and writers, just before they died. Their final words. Oh, this is good for my morale. I feel so Jim Dandy now. I'm having a hard time dealing. I'm having a hard time dealing with the fact that I look at my body. I look at the mess my body is right now. And I come to the conclusion that short of a great number of circumstances aligning, this is it. Physically speaking, and I'm going to be more and more in decline. You know what it's like to be perfectly aware that you have kidney stones embedded in your left kidney, and they're not going anywhere at the moment, but they're waiting their turn. and you're like, wow, I can see the future. And it looks sort of like, this is not a maybe. This is a definite. I will eventually be calling an ambulance to pick me up and haul me to the hospital and shoot me up full of morphine while somebody tries to figure out, how they're going to burrow into my corpse to get these rocks out of my bladder. That is, it's only a question of how many years, how many months, how many years. And every time I feel a little ache in my back, I'm like, oh crap. That's my future. That's my life now. And it's sort of grinding me down just a little bit. Unless I can, unless a miracle occurs, and I pull myself up out of this is why I sympathize so much with the author of How to Be Homeless. She's in a dire way. I am not kidding you right now. I'm begging. I'm going out there. I'm begging people. Please. I got nothing. I can't even send her a keep your chin up birthday card at this point. Help her out. This woman is in dire straits. She went from living in a trailer on somebody else's property. Now she's living in a tent. Because the people that the property owners on the land she was living on got a stick up their butts and decided to shaft her. Even though she had paid up her lot rent and everything else, she was paid up and everything. But because she broke one of the rules on the property, she let somebody who wasn't a tenant use her bathroom. That was apparently the excuse they were looking for to throw her out. She had a choice between having her trailer impounded or sticking it in one of these storage rental places. She went with the storage rental, and now she's literally living in a tent. And it's horrifying. It's so heartbreaking. And what's really scary is that I am given 2 or 3 months at any given time from being in the same place she is or worse. The happiest moment, one of the most proud moments of my life is that I found out about this when I first stumbled across her site, and I started directing traffic to her site as best I could, and she went from having like $50 in pledges on Patreon to having 600. Well, not that much of a difference. I forget. Like she had maybe 100, 200. But you managed to get people to, move to her site and start taking note of this woman. This woman has been, just posting basically a cry for help, for who knows how long. And society has, shafted her. Among other things, she apparently comes from an abusive background. She ended up homeless because she was basically fleeing for her life, and All the supposed safety nets our society has have proven useless for her. And I don't know, a lot of people are criticizing, if you didn't act so weird, you wouldn't have so much trouble. If you didn't walk around wearing hats with ears on them, maybe you wouldn't be there. Blah 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 blah. The poor woman walked into a church, a Catholic church, but she walked into a church, just to sit down and attend the whatever they call it, the sermons, the mass, whatever. And to get out of the weather. And the first thing they did, one of their, loving neighborhood priests, just marched down the aisle and threw her out. You're disturbing the people who are here to worship. I'm like, way to roll one there, preacher man. Way to go, Padre. I'm a Baptist. This is nothing less than what I expect from a Catholic priest. You don't want to know what a Baptist minister goes through if he tries to bring the gospel into a neighborhood with a strong Catholic presence in it. Baptist missionaries over in Italy, man, getting the work over. You know what I'm saying? But anyway, it's like, come on, okay, she's eccentric, she's weird, she's a human, but she's still a human being. My God, she's functional enough that she tries to hold down a job. And all these, we advocate for the homeless, and the homeless can't get jack shit out of them. It just makes me angry. We advocate for the poor, we advocate for the homeless. You advocate for yourselves, you jackasses. Bet you it wouldn't be a week later that same priest is out there telling, the church does wonderful work for the poor. Oh, kiss my heretical butt, yeah. Amosexual, yeah. Amosexual. I identify as a shotgun shell, sexually speaking. Never interrupt me with a commentary from the comments section, because July should be Gun Pride Month. I'm an amosexual. I sexually identify as a derringer. One blast and I'm done. Yeah, and I've seen this thing where people are saying, "Oh, all these companies, they pretend to care about us, and then as soon as Pride Month is over, you can't give them enough to ever make them happy." That's gospel truth right there. You can never give a deviant crowd enough to make them happy, because they know they're deviant, and nothing they do is going to change that awareness. They don't, they've gotten everything they want. They say they want from us. They get they get the tolerance, the acceptance, they get the legal approval. They reach the point where they're almost mandatory in our, in any corner of our society, but it's still not enough for them, because it's not going to silence the guilty conscience in the back of their head. That's what they want to shut up. That little voice is never going away. I've heard a very good, I heard a very good description of the Democrat Party whatever the hell it was that they just held, where they picked out their candidates. One guy described it as it was a competition to see who would promise to spend the most of our money. That's all they were. They're a bunch. They're a bunch of toddlers. Probably, we'll give you more free stuff. I remember hearing one woman describe they decided to get a bunch of I forget what age group they were. Grade schoolers anyway. And they decided to teach them about democracy. Okay, we want you to elect a class president. And one kid came, and you have to run your campaign, and and the kids, they ended up with two kids that were going to run for president, and the little girl went first, and she said, "If you elect me president, my mommy will throw a party for everybody." Yay! And the teacher asked him, "But is your mommy willing to do who's going to pay for all the cake, and who's going to do?" And she, I don't know, and they still elected her. Congratulations, you've just seen a picture of what it's like with the Democrat Party today. I don't care. Somebody else is going to pay for it. Somebody else is going to make it work. Somebody else is do this. Somebody else will do that. All they have to do is stand up there and promise it. And when they never deliver on their promises, it's always somebody else's fault. And it works over and over and over again. That's, that will put you off the idea of democracy faster than anything. Meeting the average voter, you know what I'm saying? We are not a democracy. We are a republic. More importantly, we are a constitutional republic, which means that we start out, we have, as I've said it thousands of times before, a democracy is 3 wolves and a sheep voting on what's for dinner. A republic is the sheep get to pick the wolf that writes the menu for the week. A constitutional republic is where the sheep has a gun and a list of what is never going to be on the menu. And the usual witlings say, "Oh, you're so, that's so simplified. You're simplistic." I present to you this premise that most of the things, most of the so-called complicated problems of the world are in actuality very, very simple. That is not the same thing as easy. In fact, some of the hardest things in the world to do, like the right thing, are also the simplest. Got some bunch of lowlifes advertising on. I was browsing TV tropes today. Pop-up windows keep popping up. I guess those algorithms are working overtime, because every page I turn to is a new ad saying, "Abortion is still legal in West Virginia. Do you need an abortion? Call this number." Ugh. Well, those wonderful, compassionate people from the Baby Blender Company. That's what I'm going to call abortionists from now on, the Baby Blender people. Want a dead baby smoothie? Oh, that's horrible. Yes, it is horrible. Isn't it interesting that it's going on in real life? That's not horrible enough for us to stop it. Abortion doesn't stop rape. Abortion doesn't stop incest. Abortion doesn't stop women from struggling with poverty. There is nothing more disgusting than somebody who makes hay by trying to convince a woman that they can solve all her problems by murdering her baby. What do you bet they got an algorithm to make this, make sure. He said abortion is bad. Quick, demonetize him. All that technology to keep people from, abusing a 50-year-old song off the top, American Top 40, but they can't track down actual criminals with it. Isn't that interesting? Isn't that fascinating? Of course they're not going to use that technology to track down, rapists and pedophiles and other horrible criminals on the internet. They know who their friends are. No nation can survive without virtue, and no nation without God will have virtue. Without God's hand in it, without godly virtue, even the most adamantly applied law is merely a matter of whether or not somebody decides to obey it. The most carefully legislated law in the world is just words on paper. If there is no morality to drive people to obey it. Isn't this just a ray of sunshine in your day, folks? Let's talk about more depressing things that nothing we can do about it. Yeah, I used to get mad. This talking about it isn't going to do anything, and I would get mad about that. I'd say free speech is important. We gotta. If we don't complain, what's going to change? And I would insist. I insisted that the noise we made here, could make a difference that we'd never know about. And I still believe that. I just don't think that I'm liable to see it. Maybe that's just because I'm getting old, and everything. You're not really old. You're only 48. Oh, shut up, people. Seriously, you're not old. You're just a spring chicken. Oh, great. So I have more pain and old age. It's just. Oh. You mean it gets worse? Thank you. You've boosted my morale. Not. Look, I am 48 years old. In 1900 years, that's dead. Well, 1800. Picky. I have a bald spot in the middle of on the top of my head. Great big old bald spot. What the hair on my head and on my face that isn't gray is snow white. Okay? I am tremendously overweight. I have horrible conditions in my body that normally are associated with rather advanced old age. I'm missing an internal organ or two because they had to remove it because they weren't working anymore. Gallbladder, for your information. I'm old. My legs hurt. My legs are, just swollen monstrously. I'd be a circus freak in another generation, in another age. Come behold the elephant foot man. No lie, no exaggeration. I'm old. I'm just at that age where everything's broken down and I just can't reap any of the benefits of being elderly, just all the pain. Daniel Myers said, "Oh, well, look at me. I'm older. I'm a couple of years older. I'm older than you, and I'm doing great now." Just go. Let's not kid ourselves. Daniel Myers, for lack of a better term, working himself half to death, trying to maintain, trying to get his 40-something body back to the state it was when he was 20-something years old, because his insurance company demands it. He's done, kudos to him for the marvelous progress, but let's not kid ourselves, that's not the same as being young. I'm sorry, Daniel. I love you out there, man. But man, you know, I go on Facebook. He's got a new thing up. I just finished 50 reps. Yeah. I am where I am because well, there are a lot of things I could have done differently. For my health, for my personal situation. Everybody has things they could have done differently. Let's be fair. Everybody could have had, if there's anybody out there that's, oh, well, nah, I got everything right the first time. I'm like, mention their high school senior prom and things just break down in tears. Oh yeah, you got everything right. Yeah. No. We all have mistakes. I seem to have gathered them as a hobby. We're supposed to learn from our mistakes, not accumulate them and, see, until they amalgamate. On the plus side, I have a nice shade tree starting to grow at one end of my house. This thing, I remember when this thing was a weed that I kept paying a guy to, chop down and throw away. And he never did it. Jackass. And now here it is. Birds can roost in it now. Fortunately, the shade's at the wrong end. I don't know. Give it like 5-10 years until the leaves are growing up over the roof. Then you have some. I would love to. I would love to have trees. All the way around this house. you know, trees and shrubs, and you just let it all grow up, and then plant some kudzu and wait a couple of years. Then the landlord will never find me. I knew there was a trailer here a year ago. Where the heck did it go? Haha, can't find me. I do. If I was, I own, quote unquote, this trailer, but I am constantly paying taxes on it, and worse, rent on the land it's sitting on. This was a plan that got, just fell apart before it even got started. You know what I'm saying? If I was ever in like that crazy millionaire situation, I would be like, buy a little island, one of those little tropical islands you see pictures of on web browsing, picture browsing sites, and it's an island maybe a couple 100 feet long and surrounded by clear blue lagoon. Hurricane season, but I would get an island. Probably down, in the tropics someplace. Someplace tropical or just very balmy. Someplace with a nice Mediterranean climate. Not necessarily the Mediterranean. The people there are nuts. Thank you. No. But somewhere with a climate similar to that. And I would get an island, and I would just plant up bushes and trees and everything. I'd be like trying to find a hobbit who had decided to go hermit. Makes me think of, there was this book I read when I was a little boy. It was part of a series, SOS Bobimobile, Bobimobile, about this little boy and his adventures with this eccentric inventor neighbor. In SOS Bobimobile, he and his eccentric inventor friend he invents a new kind of submarine, and they go off to track down the Loch Ness Monster. They take it to Loch Ness, and they're hunting for the Loch Ness Monster. And the running gag of the story is that one of the running gags in the book series is that this old man, this eccentric inventor, he painted his house camouflage, and he would change it with the seasons. In winter he would paint the house completely white. In fall he'd paint it all in autumn colors, and patterns and so on and so forth. And one of the jokes in the early books is the kid kept running into the guy's front porch on his bicycle because he couldn't see where the house stopped, and then the forest ended. But there was one scene at the final chapter of the book. They actually encounter the Loch Ness Monster. They've beached the submarine, and the Loch Ness Monster comes out of the water and stands over there, just hidey ho, Standing on the shore are two groups of Scotsmen. One group that insists that there is a Loch Ness Monster, and the other that insists there is not a Loch Ness Monster. And they all stand there and watch as the sea monster surfaces, meets the boy and the eccentric inventor, and then turns around and swims off. And then the two groups start fighting. Straight up Donnybrook, with the pro Nessie group yelling, "See, she's real, and the other group, no, there's still no such thing as a Loch Ness Monster." That was my first lesson in just how stupid and stubborn people are about their beliefs. As first childhood lesson, people are really that dumb. And my dad was like, "Yes, son, Yes, they are. And the kid breaks up the fight by standing on top of the submarine and showing them all that they managed to find one of the Loch Ness Monster's eggs. We'll hatch it and let you know. We can't blame you're talking about how people who hate free speech and gun rights invade our country en masse. We can't blame that entirely on them. We can't blame our current situation entirely on them. Most of most of the enemies of this country came from within. I mean, they didn't import the hippies. You know what I'm saying? The Democrat Party was homegrown. In fact, the Democrat Party and the Ku Klux Klan, hand in glove. The Democrat Party basically rose to power on, supporting the Klan. This was homegrown villainy. And the Democrat Party, ever since their origins, has latched onto every possible wickedness and stupidness that this society can muster. And not only embraced it, but have gone, we've gone too far, let's see how much further we can go. This has been going on for over 100 years. The people who laid the groundworks for the destruction of this country had started their work over 100 years ago. It was about over 100 years ago that public education started. And let's call it what it is, government education. And what's wrong with government education? What's wrong with public education? I repeat for you the saying. We send our children off to Caesar to be educated, and then we are astonished when they march home as Romans. The open statement of the people who founded the public education system and used and installed the Prussian model school system into it was to reduce the influence of the parents on the thinking of the child. That was why they created kindergarten, to get to them earlier and reduce the influence of the parents. They stated that openly as part of their mission. They didn't sneak in with this. These were like the worst. These would be people like the worst cat burglars in history. Boom! Kick open the door. We're stealing your stuff, and everybody sleeps through it. But these people, they came in. They had this plan. They were already. You can backtrack it. And the same people that pushed for government education also pushed for the Federal Reserve to take over our economy. They pushed for fiat currency. They pushed for, they pushed to lower the voting age, to try and find that, stupid margin. Hey, man, it's a matter of biology. It's a matter of biology. They've proven that impulse control is one of the last things to develop in the human brain until early 20s. When they're out there trying to lower the age as far as they can get it, let's get it down to 18. They complained that these kids were being sent off, the age of 18, they were being sent off to fight wars. That's not a ground for, if it's a bad idea for them to fight a war for a country, it's kind of a bad idea to let them run a country too. Just a thought. A huge portion of our society's changes have been towards one, prolonging adolescence as long as possible, and two, harvesting it for votes because you can get them to go along with any stupid decision possible. I remember myself at 18 and I'm like, good Lord, where was my keeper? Where was my leash? I was somebody who should not have been left alone, you know what I'm saying? I was somebody who was really not ready to be an adult. And in this society, that's saying something. But no, we got a society um, that tries to give more and more influence and power and less maturity and responsibility to kids at the same time. It's just, no, it's crazy. I think the voting age should be raised to at least 25, with one exception. If you serve in the military, you get the vote. And you got people who are still applying for citizenship in this country who are serving in our military. What the flap is that? What the figgity? They're out there catching bullets for us, but we need to really drag our heels about making them. Get out of here! They gave an oath to this country. They're out there dodging bullets for us. Give them their dang citizenship, you. And then you got, no, it's insane. The vote should be at least 25, because by that time you've been out of college for at least a couple of years. You've had to pay taxes. You've had to pay rent. You've had to get a job. You've had to earn a living, and you've actually got some adult life experience. Back 100 years ago, yeah, adulthood came a little bit earlier, and you had a little bit of hard work under your belt by the time you were 18 or 21. Not anymore. Kids go into college and try and find ways to stay in there to drink their way to the bottom of the campus. How can I work this schedule of classes around my plan of sex and booze, and political demonstrations? People who have the least contribution to society have the biggest, loudest, noisiest voices thanks to college universities. No, college campus. No, this is not the way it's supposed to be. It was never supposed to be this way. This is why the Founding Fathers required that you be an adult landowner in order to have the vote. Because somebody who owned land, at least back then, somebody who owned land had a stake in the well-being of the community he was in. It was the landowner that was going to be paying land taxes. It was the landowner that had a reason to stick around and try and make things work. Now, politics and economics have changed, but still, I got a question whether where they were into something along those lines needs to be reinstated. We got people out there who are convincing hobos to go to the voting booth with boxes of cigarettes. Come on, we've got a problem. Nobody wants to fix it. Nobody can fix it. So we're sitting here talking about it and whining about it and hoping that somebody else will fix it for us. That's the idea behind political debate. Somebody needs to fix this. Unfortunately, the means for fixing it are a little bit beyond what most people are capable of or willing to do. Considering that in order to fix their government, our founding fathers had to go to war. Draw your own conclusions on the feasibility for our own generation. You know what I'm saying? I don't know about you, but I'm not up for a war. I'm too tired. I love these Antifa people. They're coming out, we're going to start a revolution. All these leftists and socialists, we'll start a revolution. We'll fight a revolution against these these evil Republicans. And I'm like, what are you going to fight it with? Bongs and dildos? How'd you like to be the cop on the front row for that one? You're standing there, you're talking to the bullhorn. All right, we need you all to disperse peacefully and return to your homes, and all of a sudden out of the back comes a flying rubber suction cup dildo out of nowhere, right in the forehead. Oh, for crying out loud here! You're standing there in your police squad, your SWAT team riot gear with a big old fluorescent dong stuck to the forehead of your helmet. Oh, yeah, laugh it up. Yeah, ha, 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 ha. Talking about who's responsible for the downfall of the nation is sort of like talking about going back in time and killing Hitler. Okay, everybody talks about going back in time and killing Hitler. Let me bring something up. Hitler was not a lone phenomenon. You don't understand. Hitler was just the figurehead for a nasty political movement that already had roots deep in Europe. Anti-Semitism in Europe was, it was nasty. It's nasty now, but it's getting to the point where it was back then. But it was incredibly nasty anti-Semitism. Socialism was rising as fraudsters and hucksters screwed up the economy, and everybody was running around looking for anything to save the day. That was how communism got sold. Communism, basically, they go in, they kick everything over, and say, capitalism did this. Let us save you from it. And that's how they get their, that's how they make their traction. Anyway. If you went back in time and killed Hitler, they would have another figurehead running things. You'd go back to the future and they'd be all Hitler who. This was run by, Goebbels or Heidler or Schultz or Schicklgruber or somebody. Hitler was just the scab over the top of the festering sore. If you killed Hitler, they would just rearrange the deck chairs and have somebody else in charge. In fact, it's probably to the best that Hitler was in charge because he was a loony. It's his mental and emotional problems that helped lead to the downfall and defeat of the Third Reich. Can you imagine how screwed the world would have been if they'd had a sane, evil dictator leading things? Somebody who didn't turn on the Soviet Union at the last second. Somebody who didn't sink millions and millions of German marks into, Nazi superweapons. Somebody who wasn't obsessed with the occult. Do the math yourself, I once considered writing an alternate history fiction where where the Nazis of Germany and the Marx and the communists of the Soviet Union, of Russia amalgamated. The Nazis, at about the midpoint of the war, they decided that Hitler was barmy as bat poo, and assassinated him, and replaced him with somebody else, and started making handshake deals with the Soviet Union, and that they became a new Reich. They sat down, went over the papers, and well, we all pretty much believe the same things. It's just the little details here and here. Da is good. And the next thing you know, you've got a Third Reich that covers both Russia and Germany, eating up the world. It would have been some bad mojo. If it hadn't been for the Russian front, good Lord, imagine. Just imagine. I was watching a video earlier. Is the 10 most wrong moments in the cartoon Gumball. You know, the Marvelous Adventures of Gumball. Don't know if you've seen it. And I watched it, you know, in the first, you know, I'm like, I'd seen a few clips, you know what I'm saying? And I'm like, I wonder what they decided was the, you know, the most, you know, these were supposed to be 10 most adult, you know, inappropriate for children moments in the show, right? And they looked through and they were like, oh, this Halloween episode was too scary for little children. And this episode was too surreal, and you know, it had scary things. And there was one episode where the littlest girl locked the family out of the house so she could watch her favorite show. And we're so scared that little children will see that and get ideas. And they're like, oh, you milksop snowflakes. Those are the moments in that show you think were the most inappropriate? Okay, let me give you you an idea. Yeah, let me see if I can. I'm gonna find it. I'll show you what kind of. All right, let me see here. Let me put, here we go. Just give me a second here. This one is Gumball Inflates Alan.
Who would date such a shriveled bag of sadness?
Well, no one. But if you reinflate, you could have a shot with Masami.
I don't think I have the strength to inflate.
Okay, they cut the last bit of that out.
Dude!
Okay, in case you didn't pick up the innuendo, in case you've never seen it, in the next scene they're shown coming out of the bathroom. The balloon is fully reinflated and is smiling happily, while the cat kid looks absolutely traumatized. And he's, well, thank you for helping me out, Gumball. Thank you so much, Gumball. He's like, whatever, dude. Yeah, blowjob innuendo. That was on the show. They had another episode where the kid stumbles in on one of the talking fruit people watching a banana peel itself on the computer. Porn innuendo. And you see where I'm going here. But these, those things did not make the list of things that were, the utterly wrongest moments. It was all this touchy feely. Oh, this might have been too frightening for the little children. Like, just how far just how much stupid flakes do you have to eat every morning to think like that? That a cartoon, that the episodes that had sexual innuendo in them, they weren't the real big deal. They were we were more worried about the ones that might encourage, children to go play in the street or something. What on earth, You're killing me, You're just killing me here. And then they talked about one of their top lists, the episode where Gumball gets jealous because his girlfriend starts seeing somebody else. And, he was his voice was too scary. That's why they thought the episode was inappropriate. The world is run by mentally stunted children. I won't lie. I use the trace tool. I use the cut and paste tool. I use the copy tool. Way too many jokes are, they rely on dialogue, and most of the drawing is just redundancy. There are very few slapstick bits of humor I've developed of late. It's just. Take a look at the average Garfield strip. Yeah, he doesn't use the copy tool. No, 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 no. That guy hasn't drawn his own comic strip in years, decades even, and he's still making money hand over fist. I bet you they don't even draw him anymore. They just have a rubber stamp with a sleeping Garfield cut into it. Okay, panel 3. Oh, we need one with him in the bed. Here. Normal over here. It's a cut and paste comic without the dignity. Let me save that. Okay. Okay, we got 5 people in channel. One of them's me. 4 of them are you. What do you got to say? What do you got to talk about? Come on. I need some love. I need some feedback. Because I'm a lonely man. I'm serious. I spent this last week. I literally forced myself to lie in bed and try and sleep through the heat of the day. Trying to just do nothing but lie in bed and rest and sleep didn't really work. Trying to get my body caught back up. Meatloaf recipe: pound of hamburger, not even really that much, but a pound of hamburger, pound of hamburger boxes. I'll get it out in a day or two. Pound of hamburger, box of stuffing mix, one egg, about a cup of ketchup, mix, mold into a loaf, bake for 1 hour at 400 degrees. The stuffing mix provides all the spices you need, for flavor. So you don't have to worry about that. I tried topping it with cheddar cheese. Took too long, and just baked the cheddar cheese into sort of brown, dark black crust. Not one of my better ideas, that one. But the meatloaf, the meatloaf recipe works. The idea behind meatloaf is that the breading you add swells up and increases the number of servings. How upset would Hortense be if Thelma became a Pops girl? She'd definitely be dramatic about it. Pop and Pop's Auto Girls have made it clear that they're not going to put up with any of Hortense's shenanigans. There's a strip way back in the archives where Hortense tried to stage a protest at Pop Autos, and he turned the hose on her. I love that play on words. Pop's Auto, run by Pop Auto, and the Pop's Auto Girls. It's layered. But, yeah. gnats. Keep flying. What I hate about these, especially these gnats, they keep one of them keeps flying up under my glasses and almost into my eye. Like ah. Now I'm feeling a lot perkier than I was the last time I did this show. I think maybe I should do it closer to the middle of the day. I don't know. I'm all over the map anyway. It's not like people are sitting on hooks and needles, waiting, pins and needles, waiting for me to, pop this, Oh, I can't wait for the next episode. I'm background noise. I've come to accept that. But anyway, the question is, how upset would Tuck be if Thelma became a Pop Auto girl? I think that if Nip and Tuck's wives decided to make a little money, a little extra money at Pop Autos, they'd be a little uncomfortable with it, but they'd probably accept it, if for no other reason than karma. They spent their ill-spent youth down there ogling the girls that work there. So, but if anybody tried to get fresh with either of them, the fur would fly. Bunch of vegans, a video of a bunch of vegans branding each other. Oh, Lord. Do you ever think that they eventually, you ever wonder if any of these people eventually grow up and they look back at this and just spend, so many years in humiliation over their ill-spent, stupid years? Really, just really. I read this article. It was posted. Vegans are not, vegans. Basically, this guy, he's a reporter. He did he's been on every side of the argument. He's done. He's tried the vegetarian thing. He tried the vegan thing. He's actually had to kill animals, butcher animals. He's done, he's the whole 9 yards. He's familiar with the farming. This guy lives in Australia. He's a reporter in Australia. He started talking about it. He pointed out, okay, the belief that veganism. Okay, he lists all the information. Basically, the belief that veganism results in less animal suffering is not true. As he points out. He gives one example. There's a farm there that produces several hectares of peas. The green peas that you get in a can. And the people that own the farm, they have to kill hundreds of animals every year. And we're not just talking, like mice or rats or other, little vermin that don't really count to a vegan because they're icky. We're talking things like deer. I forget the list of Australian animals that most of us go to a zoo to look at. Wallabies, kangaroos. He said something like 1,500 animals a year. They have to go out and kill them. They usually hire hunters who come in, kill the animals and haul them off for food. But if a vegan picked up a can of peas, they'd be like, oh, vegan peas, Farming, they have to kill dozens of hundreds of animals. They have to kill ducks by the score to keep them out of the rice paddies. It's just basic necessity, because if they didn't, these animals would just devour everything. They either have to shoot them or poison them or a dozen other different things. There's just no way around it. And supposedly completely vegan food. There's you pick up some completely animal cruelty free. Thousands of animals died to get that can of food to you. And what's really sad is that the guy that wrote this, he admits, he lists all this evidence, that veganism, veganism has the same problem that every other failed philosophy has. Which makes it evil. Okay, it does, it costs the world. It does not work, and it kills people. Because I hate to break it to you, if we practice veganism the way these idiots want it, instead of just killing the animals and not putting it on the label, if we practice if we religiously practice veganism the way the vegans want it, people would die of starvation. And as it stands, let's put, they estimate that hundreds more animals die for like a bag of flour than for a pound of beef. The vegan lifestyle kills more animals than the omnivorous lifestyle does. And this guy still insists, well, the vegan lifestyle and outlook is still a feasible and understanding. He's still willing to entertain the notion that veganism was a valid philosophy, even though he had just admitted and written out the facts that it did not work, that it killed more animals, and that it made food cost a fortune. All leftist philosophies have the same things in common, the same three things in common. It costs the world, it does not work, and it kills people. Every leftist, secular, humanist philosophy that's come down the pike has the same thing. Same three things in common. In fact, it has four things that in common. It does not work. It costs a fortune. It does not work, and it kills people. And we've tried it before. Those four things. You can take it to the bank. You could sum up. You could save a mountain of time just telling any of these leftist idiots those 4 points, and you'd be 110% correct every single dang time. But they'll not believe you. They won't believe you. They don't want to believe you. They're little children who don't want to quit believing in Santa Claus. They don't want to quit believing that they can get anything they want for free. They think The whole philosophy is to get something for nothing. Mm. I'm trying to add the text now to the strip. Uh, I hate that. What possesses a bug to try and fly up a man's nose? It's like, I've been here before. It's horrible, disgusting, and many of us have died here. Shall we explore deeper? Okay, now word bubbles. It's the word bubbles. We draw the little round bubbles around the words. You ever notice that feminists live under the perpetual mistaken notion that anything that would make a woman happy, a woman could never have actually thought of that idea herself? He coerced her into it. I love the ones that women, literally hundreds, tens of millions, maybe hundreds of millions actually, women voted for Trump. That's more women than were in any of these feminist marches combined. But somehow their decision doesn't count. Well, because obviously their husbands coerced them into it. And I'm wondering how many of the harpies at the Coven coerced you into what you're doing, lady. Okay, and now we finish the strip. We save it in the format that we normally use. which is PNG. Why do we use PNG? Because this program doesn't use GIF or GIF. And, kiss my butt about which one is the proper pronunciation. I don't care. I don't use GIF. I don't care. I don't care. Yeah, not that it would have, okay, let me see here. Just zibbity dee flibbity. There we go. There we go. It's just animated background. There we go. Post. $1,035 strips. There you go. Give or take a couple. Yes, we're still talking about them getting their quills pulled. Drifting on to a different topic other than sex about it, though. And away we go. And there we have it, a brand new Nip and Tuck strip, finally up. Hooray! For those of you who couldn't read it on the show, feel free to stop by the website and check it out. I still gotta redesign the. I don't know. I still gotta redesign the website. Not taking advantage of the full width of the screen anymore. The layout that I currently have, that was fine before everybody started getting these wide screens. Now there's more of a layout. There's big wide gaps on either side. I could be showing the strips at almost full size, and make a more pleasant display. This is a great, this is a great layout. Is Daniel Meyer designed this website? Very good, fairly, a lot better than what I do. I put the block here, and I put the block here, and I put the text here. Yeah, it would have ended up looking like one of those old, what's the name websites. With all the animated backgrounds and the automatically playing music files. Remember those? What was the name of that company? I've forgotten. Oh, how time flies. They were the biggest thing on the web for about, a year. Sorry, I didn't realize that I'd had the microphone shut off. Okay, and the audio is and the music audio is not working. Eh, that's annoying. Turning on the rain. Who stopped the rain? You know. Frazzle to Dazzle is back again, making commentary on my stories, throwing a fit because the first two, in like the first paragraph of the story, with the with the My Hero Academia crossover story, the El Rira. Yeah, he's just letting his Asperger fly. That's what I call it. Somebody who has not been actually diagnosed with Asperger's, but basically behaves as if he's auditioning for the role. I tried so hard and I really, really want this role. I want to be the most annoying kind of autism possible. Because then I can be a dink and I can have any excuse I want. Then he comes on there. It's the opening scene, and Izuku is walking along. He's on his way to school. He sees a guy trying to rob a little old lady and her push cart. The guy's a punk with a this guy actually appeared in the anime. He was in the trials in the admission exam. And what he had was his power, his quirk. He's had a drill growing out of his head, out of his forehead, like a pompadour. And in the story, the guy threatens the lady with his drill, says, give me the money or else, and she gives it to him, and he runs off, and Izuku trips the guy. He trips, falls, and gets his forehead stuck in a telephone pole. And everybody's laughing at the guy, and Izuku laughs, and Frazzle to Dazzle, he's so out of character! He's standing there laughing? Izuku has wanted to be a hero forever. He should be in tears of drama because he finally had a heroic moment. And I'm like, oh, jeez. That was the last straw. I said, go away, Fraz. Go away. Do not let the door hit you where the good Lord split you. Leave. You do not like the stories. You do not like me. I don't really like you anymore. Go away. And he comes back. He just come back with another post. Oh, well. And he tries to get pious with me. A wise man appreciates reproval, but a fool is blah, 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 blah. Proverbs, so forth and so forth, Oh, jeez. Just Fraz, if you're listening out there, and I really hope you're not, I've seen way better people way better at putting on a performance of piety than that in this week alone. Go back and try harder and fail again. Just go away. Just leave. You have ceased to contribute anything except a target. Good. Shoo. The guy's commenting on fan fiction. He apparently thinks he's the Jesus of Siskel and Ebert. And frankly, you ever watch Siskel and Ebert back when they were alive? Siskel. Now I'm wondering how many of the audience out there actually know who Siskel and Ebert were. For those who don't know, Siskel and Ebert were a couple of movie critics. And they could not pick a good movie to save their lives. I'm not kidding you. I kid you not. You knew that a movie was going to be a blockbuster if Siskel and Ebert both gave it thumbs down. It might be worth a risk if one of them said, oh, well, it's not too bad. But if both of them gave it thumbs up, it was Oscar bait and, Sundance Festival wankery. It's like these people in wine taste. They were the movie equivalent of wine tasters. Elitist snobs with no taste. They did the actual tests. They got a bunch of these professional wine tasters. These people that judge them. Oh, it's so fruity. It has a playful background, and and whatever else they say about wines. They bought up a bunch of cheap Thunderbird level wine. They poured it into different bottles and stuff, and gave it out to these people to sample. Don't know what they told them the stuff was. But they asked them to guess what vintage it was and all this. And, it's and they were ebullient in praise for the wine. It has such a playful aroma, and it's so robust and a mischievous kick and blah 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 derp 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 derp. I hope a little part of their soul died when somebody finally showed them the label. Strawberry Ripple? Sterno in a can? Just and just my luck to be, to fall victim, just become the target of somebody whose Asperger's fixation is their superior judgment of fan fictions. Imagine my joy and rapture. Imagine my glee. Now, I do have to admit to this. I do have certain things that keep appearing in my stories. One, there's a terrible bully. There's always a bully. There's always somebody in authority who's negligent about the bully. And the protagonist, never has any really solid setbacks. They compared to most other writing, the character moves from I win to I win to I win to okay, I have I compromise a little bit, then I win again. Well, it's my writing style. I really don't know. I really can't bring myself to write that way. I really can't enjoy writing a character who's always wrong, or even wrong a tremendous part of the time, or And of course, you got I mean, compared to other writers, I mean, compared to the author of Worm, whose protagonist moves from disaster to disaster with with her foot on the gas pedal like a lump of lead. Yeah, I tend towards the other extreme. Maybe that makes it more enjoyable for people. I don't know. It's not going. My writing's not going to win any awards. Well, to be fair, I did win I did win a award ages ago for Tales of the Questor. It's one of these annual award things at one of these minor conventions. I'm like, yay, how nice! And I've got it in a frame somewhere here. Don't even know where anymore. Makes me feel old looking at the date. My Hero Academia. Yeah, one of my stories is El Arara, where Izuku ends up with the powers of a rabbit, basically. Oh, please don't talk to me about Kickstarter campaigns. That's painful memories for me right now. I've had a lot of people who very graciously told me that I don't have to worry about paying them back. That's a serious lightening of the burden, to say the least. But I still miles to go before I sleep, if ever. And I regret that Kickstarter campaign more every day I think about it. Because I ponied up and I couldn't I couldn't follow up. Grossly overestimated my abilities. I should have been like that guy who started a Kickstarter for potato salad. Seriously, he put up a campaign and said, send me money, I'll make some potato salad and share it with you. I forget how much money he made, and he did it. He went out there, he arranged the time and day, and he went out, and he had a tent and everything set up, and gallons. He bought tons of potatoes and gallons of, they'd sent him hundreds of thousands of dollars, and he made tens of thousands of dollars, and he made tens of thousands of dollars worth of potato salad and gave it all away. I think he gave the lion's share actually of the money to some charity at the end. But he was out there with the potato salad, and I'm like, there's a man who can deliver. He knows his limitations. He knows not to promise too much. He knows a good potato salad recipe, and he ran with it. I'll talk whatever y'all want to talk about, but it seems like Mr. Cartoon Critic is jumping backwards and forwards through time to pick out what he's going to talk about next. He goes from talking about some vegans branding each other on a video to a Kickstarter campaign for an animated show called True Tale, and now he's talking about I've had them try to fly in my ears. Presumably he's talking about gnats. Because we were talking about that a while ago. And I'm like, Dear Mr. Cartoon Critic, you're having a little difficulty with your linear progression there. Did the Doctor forget to reverse the polarity on the TARDIS? And I'm really kind of glad that I gave the last season of Doctor Who a pass. And I'm talking the last season was the last season where he was still a man. Because I saw a couple episodes, just socialist drivel. And there were other episodes just full of feminist drivel. And just obnoxious. And, you could see where this was going. And surprise, they turned him into a woman. It's like, whoop, And thus dies a decades-old franchise, Franchise over 50 years old, and they dragged it out behind the barn and shot it. Oh, well. Like I'm saying, yeah, it's been drivel for a while. Now they turned it into completely feminist drivel. With any successful franchise, it eventually falls into the hands of people who have no frickin' clue what made it great in the first place. I can't imagine working on an animated feature or an animated anything. I'm stretching the absolute limit of my capabilities if I try to make an animated GIF of something. And it sucks. It's just beyond me. It's way beyond me. Quite frankly, an animated feature, a really good animated feature, that requires multiple people, and I am terrible at working with other people. I'm terrible at working on my own, too, but I'm really bad with working with other people. So, I would either, if I ever wanted to make a Tales of the Questor cartoon like I've had people ask me about, I would have to retreat almost entirely from the actual production process. I would have to be like, because even if I kept completely hands off from the actual work, I would be a helicopter mom. You know what I'm saying? And I'd have to be like, okay, I'm going to take a vacation on the other side of the country while you finish this. just to keep my hands off of everything. That's what Jim Henson did, actually, come to think of it. I was reading about, I was not reading about it, I was watching about it, and back when he first created Fraggle Rock, he basically rounded up a team of his puppeteers and such and said, "It's your baby," and then he took off because he was busy at that time making the Dark Crystal, and it was a rather rocky road for both shows, for both the show and the movie, rather. And but he left it alone. He said, he would touch base with them once in a blue moon, but he left Fraggle Rock completely up to them, just giving them a basic outline. Factoid: the name Fraggle is a reference to a 1960s. Well, actually, it came out in 1970 exactly. Christmas special that the Muppet Troupe did. It was called The Great Santa Claus Switcheroo. Something like that. It was, The Great Santa Claus Switch. Something like that. And the idea is that this villain switches places, arranges things so he switches places with Santa Claus so that he can rob all the houses in the world. Now, in this particular special, the villain had a bunch of fuzzy, scuzzy-looking critters in his cave that were his minions, and they were called Frackles. And you look at these little monsters that they had running around, and you'll see some surprisingly familiar faces. One in particular, because on the villain's desk, in a small treasure chest, in a jewelry box, is one particular Frackle. And you open it up. He opens up the box, and his head pops out, and it's a familiar blue face with a long curved nose, big bucky eyes. That was the origin of Gonzo. Years later, they would use that Frackle, and they would make him into Gonzo the Great. And thus you know what Gonzo is. He's a Frackle. Frackle. Don't you feel enlightened? Doesn't your world seem better and more sunshiny for knowing that information? Yeah. Anyway, we got 3 people in channel. Dun 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 dun. I'm kind of holding out to. I'm kind of trying to hold out to go a full 4 hours. I'm kind of motivated by the fact that back in the day, look it up. There was a show called the Fun Day Paw Pet Show that came on every Sunday night between 7 o'clock to 11 o'clock. It was aired, for lack of a better term, in Florida by a couple of guys who had a bunch of Folkmanis puppets and a stage and were bored. It wasn't a kiddie show, but it was, there were times it was, sometimes it was kind of boring, but sometimes it was just rollicking fun. It was absolutely hysterical sometimes. They would do all sorts of crazy things. They went on for, I think they aired their last show a year ago. I think they went on for close to 15 years. And it started out with just 2 guys with a couple of ferret puppets doing an impromptu skit from behind a couch and airing it over the internet. And this was before YouTube. So they had to set up everything themselves. The handshake and the broadcast and the this and the that and the these and the other, and the whole thing. They didn't have a YouTube channel. And sad to say, they never got one. But if you look around YouTube, you'll find a couple of skits from the Fun Day Paw Pet Show that people saved and reposted. Well, anyway, they did that 4-hour show once a week, and I'm like, from then on, I've been unable to feel like I've done a full show unless I've done 4 full hours. What does that tell you about me? I don't know. I don't know what that says about me. Well, what my digestive tract is saying to me right now is that you're not going to make it 4 hours. you're going to have to make a pit stop that's going to last quite a while. Anyway, oh yeah, okay. Okay, it has been 3 hours and 3 1/4 hours. How spectacular. But it is 4:48, and I gotta go. In every sense of the phrase. So, I'm going to wish you all a good night. Or a good afternoon, anyway. I'll catch you later. I'll try and do another broadcast tomorrow. Doing, every day, at least something posted to the website. That's my goal. Gotta start somewhere. And I'll see you then. You all have yourselves a good time, okay? And take care of yourselves. God bless. Say a prayer for each other. Say a prayer for me. Because, oh, Jesus, please, I need so much help. Now, you take care of yourselves and you have yourselves a good day. This has been another broadcast of Spleen Squeezings.